Hello everyone, I hope your holidays went better than mine. With 2021 coming to a close, I thought it would be a good idea to review this year in Paladins and give you all my thoughts. This video is going to be split up into different sections, so feel free to skip around. Despite feeling a bit stale, Paladins released 6 new champions this year, all of them, most of them, being very unique and original playstyle wise. Starting us off strong this year was Yaggorath the Devourer, a champion teased for over 2 years now. Visually, Yaggorath is amazing. She nails that buggy, intimidating, extraterrestrial look. I think she is one of the most unique champions in this game design-wise. On top of that, Yaggorath is a success gameplay-wise. Her main playstyle revolves around swapping between a sturdy planted stance and a mobile rolling stance. While planted, Yaggorath can take advantage of her built-in damage reduction, and she can deny space with her caustic spray. In rolling form, Yaggorath can relocate with ease, while providing intel to her team via her primal vision. All of her abilities feel unique, and because of this, I consider Yaggorath the most original champion released this year. Unfortunately, the originality came to a stop immediately with the release of Octavia. Her whole kit is recycled. Her primary is a Leon gun, her secondary is a scope to shoot the Leon gun with more damage and accuracy, she has a buck leap, and arguably her most unique ability, the Distortion Field, is Jeskai old smokescreen from the beta days. To make up for this incredibly lackluster base kit, Octavia has access to her commander's passives, which allows her to choose a benefit for her whole team. When the most unique aspect of a champion is a passive, I think something went wrong. Luckily after Octavia, we retreated to Vaatu. Gameplay-wise, Vaatu was a much-needed hit after the bland disaster that was Octavia. Vaatu is a high mobility flanker in a game that seems to hate mobility. Vaatu's bread and butter is his lamely named Dash. This ability allows Vaatu to dash omnidirectionally. On top of that, the ability hosts 3 charges, allowing you to chain dashes together for insane mobility and fun mix-ups. While it sounds incredibly basic, this ability is actually the first of its kind in Paladins. Another first of its kind is the Ambush, which allows Vaatu to teleport to an enemy while dealing a small amount of damage. Unfortunately, the originality stops with Vaatu's Shadow Bombs. In my eyes, these are one of the most uninspired abilities in this game. Apparently Vaatu was originally going to use a katana for his secondary, which sounds way cooler than the lame Shadow Bombs. Besides the Shadow Bombs, Vaatu gets a solid score gameplay-wise for hosting a unique mobile-heavy playstyle that the game needed more of in my eyes. Following Vaatu, we retreated to another unique champion with Rei. The biggest aspect of Rei that I enjoy is that she prefers playing in the heat of battle with her team, as opposed to other supports who prefer to stay in the backline. The ability that stems this playstyle is her Spirit Link, which initially sounds like a recycled Corvus mark, but in gameplay it functions very differently. Spirit Link can be used on both allies and enemies for helpful or harmful effects. Rei's Chain Heal features a new way to provide healing to allies by having the main heal bounce between allies instead of individually targeting them. To further add to her one-of-a-kind playstyle is Rei's Envelop, which reduces a single instance of damage you and an ally can take down to 275. Outside of barriers, this one-of-a-kind ability serves as the only real counter to burst damage. With her unique abilities and fun loadout cards, Rei can change from a standard support to an aggressive one on a dime. That's why I love her so much and believe that she was a great addition to this game. After Rei, the next champion released was Sati. As a damage dealer, Sati's main draw is her primary fire, the hand cannon, which is just Curse Revolver Androxus with less damage but better damage falloff. Her secondary is the trick shot, in which Sati tosses a coin to the sky. If you shoot the coin, your shot will auto-target the closest enemy in range. Her movement skill is an IO backflip that knocks enemies away, and her last ability, and arguably her most unique, is the Dead Ringer, in which Sati enters stealth while placing a cardboard cutout of herself that shoots projectiles in a straight line. The decoy also reveals enemies who shoot or destroy it. It's kind of weird because Sati doesn't bring much uniqueness in terms of individual abilities, but her kit as a whole feels very unique. What I believe ties Sati's whole kit together is her passive Tricks of the Trade. Instead of normal cooldowns, Sati uses an energy system similar to Koga. This in turn allows Sati to chain abilities together and gain other benefits depending on her pip count. In my opinion, Sati was a solid addition to the Paladins roster. Our final champion released this year was Azan the Eternal. Azan, like Yagurath, is a very unique tank that brings mostly new abilities to the realm. His primary fire Judgment is a throwing hammer that has a similar attack pattern to the likes of Xin and Vora, the first of its kind for the frontline class. Azan's secondary is Judgment, in which he lifts opponents up and interrupts their movement skills. Technically, we have seen this before from Bounce House Buck, but this is an ability, not a talent, so I'll label it as semi-original. His next ability, Sanctuary, places 5 small narwhals in front of him. And his most unique ability, at least for the tank class, is Conviction, which allows Azan to dash in any direction while potentially carrying an enemy with him for displacement. On top of all these crazy abilities, Azan hosts a unique Ire passive, which grants him damage reduction and bonus effects to his abilities when meeting certain criteria. Overall, Azan is a very fun and unique addition to the roster. To conclude this section, I think that most of the champions released this year brought something new in terms of gameplay. +1 for me. Our next section is the lore of Paladins for 2021. Some people care about lore, others don't. I believe a half-decent story helps to keep players interested in a game. So, how did the lore of Paladins shape up for 2021? Well, unfortunately for lore, we didn't get much of it, since lore was only tied to champion releases this year. Still, 2021 started off incredibly strong lore-wise. The story continued right where it left off in 2020 with Yagurath's release trailer, in which Atlas enlists the aid of some familiar champions to battle Yagurath and Vora. In my opinion, this is the best trailer Evilmoji has put out. After Yagurath's trailer, all the trailers were cut down drastically in terms of length. Don't get me wrong, they're still cool, but now they don't progress the lore that much. Like for Octavia's trailer, we can see that they continued the Darkness arc by having her be the first to take up arms against the worm. This followed suit with Vatu's trailer, in which she is ambushed by Vora. The Darkness arc sort of continued with Ray's trailer, in which she defends herself and Khan from the worm. Then the whole Darkness arc is thrown out the window with Sati, who, in her trailer, beats up Sky. That's it. No progression to the lore, just throwing drinks at Sky's face. If you removed Sati from the game, nothing would be lost lore-wise.
No, for real.
Besides Sati's, all of the trailers of this year hinted that the Paladins and Magistrate were going to team up and gather numbers to combat the Darkness threat. Initially at the start of Azan's trailer, it looked like exactly this was happening, with Octavia and Furia combating the worm. I was expecting the rest of the newcomers from this year to show up and help. But instead, Azan shows up and one-shots Yagurath. And just like that, 2 to 3 years worth of build-up was thrown in the garbage.
No, for real.
And now, the current lore seems to be regressing back to the Realm versus the Abyss. Not a great year lore-wise. -1 for me. Continuing the trend from 2020, we got 3 map updates. Our first was for Timbermill. On top of drastically improving the visuals, the update to Timbermill added some ramps by the previously untouchable sniper spots. This in turn made point fights on Timbermill much more enjoyable, since it's easier to counter opponents on the high ground. Next we had the update to Jaguar Falls, which was one of the lighter ones, only receiving visual updates. But to leave the map updates off with a bang, the update to Stone Keep is easily the best map rework they've done in this game by far. They turned one of the most bland maps in my eyes into a beautiful, bustling city. This map is also the first of its kind in Paladins to feature a day and night version. I just want to say, the night version is easily my favorite map in Paladins aesthetically. Bravo to the art team on this one. Besides the gorgeous aesthetics, the map did get some structural changes. The notable one being the removal of the ramps by the spawn points. These have been replaced by some crates and a fountain that makes direct approach more risky. Additionally, some new ramps have been placed by flanking routes for those who still wish to spawn camp. I know some people are against the map updates, but I personally don't see why. All the map updates so far have been really well done aesthetically. I think it's very important for Paladins to have some consistency with their art style. Just compare a beta map like Primal Court against the new Stone Keep to see the advancements in visuals. 2021 finally treated us to some new game modes. Well, limited time game modes. Unfortunately, the game modes we did get were more akin to Overwatch custom games, as opposed to full-blown limited time modes like Dragon's Call and End Times. Starting from the Shadows patch, every weekend would feature a limited time mode. These modes varied in quality and replayability. Most of the LTMs lean towards the boring side, sadly, a lot of them being an X character versus Y character match. Not very interesting. However, some other LTMs were incredibly addictive. Bunker Buster, Knock Knock, and my personal favorite, Pick Any. When the Pick Any game mode dropped, it was the first time this year that I actually wanted to sit and play Paladins all weekend long. I had so much fun with that LTM. I ended up uploading 6 videos just from that one game mode alone. While varying in quality, I do believe LTMs are a great step in the right direction for Paladins. There is one LTM I want to talk a little more about, but that'll be in the bug section. Before we wrap up the LTM section, I want to remind you that we were told that Payload would return as an LTM, and we didn't get it.
No, for real.
Supposedly the reason we didn't get this, according to the AOC, is that the old maps don't match the current Paladins art style. To which I call total BS. There are still plenty of outdated maps in this game art style-wise. One of the big changes monetization-wise was the removal of the Battle Pass and its replacement the Event Pass being implemented. Here's the main difference between the two passes. The Battle Pass would cost 600 crystals and contain 4 unique skins and a recolor of each skin, for a total of 8 skins across 120 tracks. The new Event Pass costs 400 crystals and contains 2 unique skins with a recolor of each across 24 tracks. If you want to get really technical with it, you are paying more per skin now.
No, for real.
Previously, you could think of each main skin costing 150 crystals, whereas now, they cost 200. Additionally, the new event passes are less appealing to consumers, since they only feature 2 champion skins instead of the previous 4. If a player didn't see a character they play in the battle pass, chances are they wouldn't buy it. Now the chances of that happening are even greater in the event pass, since it only features 2 champions in it. Even though you're paying more money for less cosmetics, the main issue that bothered me with the event passes is how incredibly grindy they feel. It takes forever to get a single level now, and with there being less goodies to obtain, the event passes feel really dissatisfying. Before we continue to the Trials of the Realm, I want to bring up the other form of skin monetization featured this year. Lootboxes. You know them, we hate them. So previously during the Battle Pass era, there would be 4 skins per patch and they would all be in the Battle Pass. With the new Event Pass era, 4 skins were still made for multiple patches, but this time only 2 were put in the pass, while the other 2 skins were placed in loot boxes. Art is subjective, but in my opinion, the better looking skins of the patch were placed in loot boxes as opposed to the event passes as a scummy way to get more crystal sales. Not a good look in my eyes. Another change during the transition of battle passes to event passes was the removal of the challenges page. Previously, a battle pass would have a corresponding list of challenges for the player to complete over the patch. All the challenges were unlocked at once, and each completed challenge provided you with a hefty amount of Battle Pass XP. The replacement to this was the Trials of the Realm, which still has that challenge-based motif, but now the challenges are revealed weekly and have to be unlocked with a Trials ticket. What's different with the Trials of the Realm challenges is that the rewards include more than just Battle Pass experience, stuff like emotes, MVP poses, and crystals. Initially, I really liked the idea of the Trials of the Realm. I figured it was a nice way to give players some goodies, even if they hadn't bought the Battle Pass. I also thought that the challenges being revealed weekly added a layer of replayability to the game, as players would be encouraged to return each week to see what's new. Then I realized that the Trials of the Realm goodies is just what would have been present in the old Battle Pass. They would have been awarded for completing a level normally, and wouldn't have been locked behind an annoying challenge wall. Oh my god, I didn't even talk about the challenges themselves. For the first time, I have to say this. But was anyone at Evil Mojo playing their own game while making these challenges? Get 5 headshots in a row with Octavia. Kill a player after a siege round ends 3 times. Hit 5 different players with Ren Soul 15 times. What is this? Challenges are supposed to be challenging, not impossible. Overall, with the Trials of the Realm, I like a few things about it, I dislike some others. Neutral change for me. Next we got the return of the previously loved Bounty Store. Because of how buggy the old one was, the Paladins team had to take it down for a few months. When it returned, things looked to be very promising. There's now 3 rotating skins instead of 1, and there's a brand new addition, Bounty Store exclusives. A lot of these exclusives are touch-ups of previously existing skins. Skins like Toothache Eevee and Sigma Vivian to name a few. I personally really love that some old skins are getting a new light shined into them. It helps with 2 things in my eyes. One is that the Bounty Store exclusive skins can be used as a way to give a unpopular champion a newish skin without divulging too many resources. And 2, it gives players another option if they like the base of the skin but dislike the default color scheme. My problem with the Bounty Store exclusives comes from the method of obtaining one. First off, you need to have purchased the Patches Event Pass to gain access to buy the Bounty Store exclusive. And second off, you need a ludicrous amount of bounty points to purchase the exclusive skin. Scratch that. You need a ludicrous amount of bounty points to buy any skin in the new Bounty Store. Just what are these prices? On the old system, you could grind your points for a week or 2 and then be able to afford a skin. Now it feels like you have to grind for multiple patch cycles in a row. Is that why the new event passes are watered down with bounty points as reward for some tiers, to justify the prices? Or are the prices so high, especially on the exclusive skins, to force people to purchase them from loot boxes instead? Yes, you heard me right, the Bounty Store exclusives can be purchased in certain loot boxes. Really takes out the exclusivity of them, but gotta get those crystal sales somewhere, am I right? While I am happy about the concept of the Bounty Store exclusive skins, and the new concept of the Bounty Store as a whole, I really dislike the direction they have taken the store in terms of pricing. I mean, there's a reason why barely anyone is buying these skins. Speaking of skins, let's talk about skin themes and distribution this year. For our past themes we had Angels, Gaming, Beach Bash, Halloween, and Deep Sea. While the skins were all great quality-wise, I do feel like the Paladins team played it safe with the themes this time. I mean, the most unique theme here is Angels. Everything else has been seen before. That being said, I can't talk about the past themes without talking about the most important event pass of the year. The very first crossover pass with the Genlock series. The pass featured skins of the 5 main characters from Genlock, with additional sprays and goodies themed around the show. Just a disclaimer, I have not watched the show. I do not plan on watching it. But I will say, this is a very good step towards getting more crossovers in Paladins, which could help to bring some new eyes to the game. Continuing on, we have skin distribution. Let's start with the good. The unpopular champions, who received skins this year. After over 3 years, Torvald finally got a new skin, Berserker, as 2021's ranked reward. Additionally, he received a recolor, Revenant, as a Bounty Store exclusive. Our boy Buck got 2 skins after a 2-year hiatus via the Beach Bash Pass. Koga received 2 skins via the Eternal Pyre Pass after over a year since his previous skin. And lastly, Dredge received a Bounty Store skin after not receiving a skin for over 2 years. Those were some nice wins for skin distribution. But unfortunately, it's going to get cancelled out because of the skin hoarders. Outside of the crossover pass, this year, Leon got 2 skins. Khan got 2 skins. Genos got 2 skins. Androxus got 2 skins. Amani got 2 skins. Ying got 2 skins. Rom got 2 skins. And Tyra got 2 more skins. Not only is it annoying to see the same few champions constantly receive skins every year, it's also incredibly boring. I personally get more excited seeing a new skin for a champion who hasn't had one in a while. I will say, this year had some great wins for the unpopular crowd. I hope we see more of that for 2022. Come on guys, the Atlas mains need something. Anything! To wrap up monetization, I want to talk about the removal of the Champions Pack this year. In case you don't know, the Champions Pack was a DLC that cost around $30 and would instantly unlock all the champions in the game for you. Now to replace it, we have these varying bundles for different prices. The noticeable stick out to me is the Deluxe Edition, which still costs $30, but now only grants you 40 champions instead of all of them. This is a change I didn't see talked about much, but it seems really shady to me. Disclaimer, This next section was written before the leaked Season 5 patch notes went up, so a few things I talk about in regards to future changes might already be happening. On to our next section, balance. Things are going to get a little heated because, hot take time, in my opinion, this was one of the worst years balance-wise for Paladins. To prove that, let's begin with some of the poor balancing decisions behind the new champions upon their release. Starting this train wreck was Release Yaggorath, 6,500 HP, on top of 40% damage reduction in her planted stance. No matter what class, if you were in a 1v1 with Yaggorath, you could not win. To kill Release Yaggorath, you needed focus fire from your whole team, or you needed to cheese the fight with percent-based damage or executes. Speaking of executes, Yaggorath's ultimate Devour is an execute, and it was an incredibly strong one upon release. When Yaggorath tags a target to be eaten, her HP pool would be changed to a new 4000 HP threshold. Basically, if you were in a losing battle even at 1 HP, you could hit the ultimate and be granted a 4000 HP buffer and possibly get a free kill in the process. To add to the frustration, the ultimate activates very quickly in close range, giving the opponent less than a second to react before dying. As if that wasn't enough, they gave this worm incredible team utility with her old damage boost. On release, if Yaggorath hit a target with piercing quills while they were standing in an acid pool, the target would take 10% increased damage. However, unlike other damage boosts in the game, which only affect weapon damage, Yaggorath's bonus damage affected everything. Ultimates and normal abilities could take advantage of the boost. Release Yaggorath was very fitting of her monstrous status. She couldn't die, she could execute your teammates, and if she wasn't killing you outright, chances are her team was with the damage boost. After the balance nightmare that was Yaggorath, the only balance issue Octavia brought was her old damage. On release, Octavia's marksman rifle scope fire hit for 500 a pop. With a 0.3 second fire rate, this meant that Release Octavia had access to 1666 DPS from mid-range. As a comparison, the champion with the highest DPS in the game is Moji. When perfectly timing both primary fires in close range, Moji can obtain a DPS of 1800. Again, Moji has to put herself at risk to obtain these numbers. Release Octavia did not. Besides her ludicrous damage numbers, Octavia's passives pose a real issue as well. A team with Octavia is at a significant numerical advantage over a team without one. Next we had Vatu, who featured incredible mobility which the game had not seen in a long time. I personally feel that Vatu's high mobility was balanced out by his tricky-to-use primary fire. But alas, the community was complaining a lot about Vatu, so I had to list him here. Moving on to Ray. On release, Ray's Midnight Stroll card was busted. Just by linking to an enemy, you would be cutting their damage by 25%. Another card of issue was Ray's Refreshing Break. This card was a lot stronger than it is now. Between this card and her Spirit Link, Ray could throw out ult charge like no one's business. A team with Ray would have their ultimates online more often than a team without one. Refreshing Break also applies to Ray herself, allowing her Vivify to be available very quickly, which leads us into her ultimate. On release, Vivify would grant the target full HP. This became especially annoying when it was used on powerful frontlines like Yaggorath. Even though Ray is my favorite champion released this year, I won't deny that her release was a bit overtuned. Let's quickly go over Sati, who in my eyes was the most balanced champion released this year. The only complaint I see is from people online who say that her improvised talent is too powerful when combined with a max stealth build. I personally disagree, and I don't think Sati is overpowered at all. I cannot say the same for Release Azan, however. To simplify Release Azan, imagine Yaggorath levels of sustain, on a champion that has range, and can move with great mobility. Azan's Ire passive grants him up to 20% damage reduction by hitting shots, or from taking damage. Yes, you can have the worst aim possible, and still gain benefit from this passive. As if the 20% damage reduction wasn't enough, Azan has not one, not two, but 3 cards to further boost his damage reduction capabilities. On top of that, his default talent Persistence grants him a bonus 5% damage reduction for free, on top of 40% lifesteal. If 40% lifesteal wasn't enough for you, you could use the Eternal Strife and Grim Deliverance cards for even more healing. To further boost his healing capabilities, on release, Azan's Conviction would cleanse him! This incredible movement slash stun slash cleanse ability hosted a short 8-second cooldown. Azan was easily the most powerful champion released, and I'm frankly terrified for the future of this game balance-wise if he was able to make it off the PTS with no changes. To wrap up new champion balance, I want to briefly talk about their talents. Is it just me, or do the talents for the new champions feel very underwhelming? It feels like very few of these talents actually change the champion's playstyle. Like, compare Octavia's talents with Tyra's. For as much as I hate her, each of Tyra's talents fundamentally change her playstyle. What do Octavia's talents do exactly? I noticed that a lot of the champs this year tended to have very strong base kits, but very lackluster talents. Why does it feel like there's only one good talent, one talent that some could make an argument for, and then a third talent that is completely garbage? Aw man, it says please do not use these talents. Why are they there then? In the Genlock patch, we were treated to reworks of various talents in the game. The goal of these reworks were to remove boring, underpowered, or frustrating talents. These were pretty significant balance changes, so I wanted to give my thoughts on these before going over to general balance. Starting with Genos' Luminary. The old Luminary granted marked allies a 10% damage boost on their weapon. The new Luminary heals all allies already affected with a mark for an additional 250 when you use the ability again. Initially, I thought this was a great first step towards giving Genos some help in the fun factor. However, after this talent rework, Genos did not receive any additional changes for the year. See, the problem with Genos is that previously he was only good for Luminary. They nerfed so many parts of his kit to make up for the strength of the old talent. With the old talent being booted, Genos felt even worse to play since he still had his pathetic numbers and couldn't even provide a damage boost to make up for it. Next we have Furia's Solar Blessing. The old Solar Blessing would stop the beam on an ally and heal them for 3000 healing per second. The talent also reduced the speed of Pyrostrike by 30%. The new Solar Blessing has the healing lowered from 3000 a second to 2000 a second, but now you can stop the beam at will. In my opinion, this was the best talent change they put out, and arguably one of the best balance changes this year. The ability to stop the beam yourself makes it so much more reliable for healing allies, and it creates so many opportunities for aggressive play as well. You can use the beam like normal on enemies since you're not punished with the slower speed, you can stop the beam in place on an enemy for a weaker exterminate, and my personal favorite, you could stop the beam at choke points to deter enemy pushes. Such a simple change added so much depth to this talent. I love the new Solar Blessing. Following that beautiful change, we arrive at arguably the weakest talent change here, Kinessa's Eagle Eye. The old Eagle Eye increased the damage of headshots by an additional 25%. This talent was one of those frustrating ones, since good Nessas could easily pop you for 2100 damage. The new talent is as follows. Sniper Rifle gains increased fire and charge rate at the cost of reduced damage per shot, and while scoped, gain increased maneuverability. The max damage of a scope shot goes down from 1200 to 550. To put it simply, this new talent turns your sniper rifle into a weak marksman rifle, which is especially confusing since Octavia was a fairly new champion at the time of this talent's inception, and no one was really asking for another Octavia weapon. Maybe they didn't have time to think of a new talent and just wanted to boot the old Eagle Eye ASAP. Who knows? Either way, what we got was another garbage talent to add to the list. Luckily, things get a bit better with Atlas's Unstable Fisher. The old Unstable Fisher would drop a bomb when you use Second Chance. The new Unstable Fisher rewinds all enemies near Atlas when he himself rewinds. The old Unstable Fisher had its moments, yes, but they were so far and few between. You had to sacrifice your main survival skill with an incredibly long cooldown, just to leave a pathetic little bomb behind. The new talent, while better, does confuse me. Atlas already has a talent capable of group rewinds. I guess this talent is meant to promote surprise disruption, as opposed to the calculated rewinds of Deja Vu. Still, I was hoping for something new and exciting for an Atlas talent. Instead, the new Unstable Fisher feels like Deja Vu 2. Next we get Barrack with the removal of his Architectonics and its replacement Forge Fire. Architectonics would increase the damage of your turrets by 20% and reduce their cooldown by 2 seconds. The new talent allows Barrack to place a flame turret at 35% ultimate charge. In my opinion, the old Architectonics was one of the most boring talents in this game. I still cannot fathom how so many Barrack players thought this was a good talent. Your turrets do 20% more damage. Wow, 144 damage instead of 120. Your turrets have a 2-second reduced cooldown. Wow, a loadout card. The new Forge Fire is what all talents in this game should be. Something to change your playstyle. A Barrack with Forge Fire is going to play a lot more aggressively than one with Fortify, for example. This was a great change and another one of my favorites from this year. Last but certainly not least, we have Fernando with 2 talent changes. The first is too formidable. The old garbage would heal you for 55% of your HP over 3 seconds once every 45 seconds when falling below 40% health. The new talent grants you 2 charges of charge, boosts the damage of charge by 100, and grants CC immunity while charging at the cost of charge's cooldown going up to 13 seconds. Again, another example of what a talent should be. Something to change your playstyle. Fernandos with the talent are encouraged to eat up crowd control and be more nimble overall. It's a shame this talent isn't played a lot. Well, the reason this talent isn't played a lot is because of the final major talent change this year. The rework to Fernando's Aegis. The old Aegis would reduce the cooldown of shield by 4 seconds while granting it an infinite uptime. The new Aegis keeps that infinite uptime, but now places the shield on a resource meter instead of using a cooldown. First off, the old Aegis, annoying as hell, because with cards, Nando could have a fresh full HP shield every 4 seconds. This new Aegis doesn't sound so bad on paper. Nando shouldn't be able to spam a shield in your face every 4 seconds, right? Well, first off, the shield regenerates super fast. And on top of that, the shield regenerates at a reduced rate while it's active. Who thought of this? One of my favorite aspects of fighting the tank class in this game when compared to Overwatch is that shields in this game can typically be played around by either outmaneuvering them or by waiting them out. With Aegis, you can't do either. You can flank Nando, and he can simply turn around. You can try waiting, but this shield has a permanent uptime. The only way to counter this annoying talent is by rushing Wrecker. This was easily the worst talent change of this year in my opinion. They took an already unfun to fight against talent, and somehow managed to make it even worse. Screw this talent.
No, for real.
I feel like Fernando has the Genos problem, where his base kit is incredibly lacking, but due to the sheer strength of one talent, his entire kit is overlooked. I'm really hoping we see some nerfs or another rework to this talent in the future. Another drastic set of changes this year came in the same patch with changes to the item store. They buffed Cauterize and Rejuvenate a bit. I like this, both items were feeling lacking since their last nerfs. They reworked Veteran finally. It's no longer that out of combat healing garbage, and now boosts your maximum HP by 4% per level. Kind of a weaker Haven when you think about it, but we'll get to that. Next, we got the removal of Blast Shields and its merger with Haven. I hate this change. For 3 reasons. 1, it dumbs down the game. Why think about which damage to reduce against an enemy of Direct and Blasters, when I could just buy one item and do it all? Second, this change heavily nerfed Blasters in my eyes. Previously, due to direct damage being more common, most players would prioritize Haven over Blast Shields, allowing Blasters to maintain full damage throughout more of the match. Now, Blasters lost the edge that they had over direct damage. And third, is that this item was removed for the introduction of one of the worst items in the game, Guardian. Guardian boosts the effectiveness of your shields by 7%. To make up for this new item, Wrecker's scaling was buffed, going from 25% per level to 30% per level. Again, I hate these setup changes. In my eyes, shields were just fine with 75% Wrecker. Like I said earlier in my Aegis rant, shields could be waited out. If you wanted to pop the shield early, you could do so fine with the 75% Wrecker. Because of the buffed Wrecker, the new Guardian item feels so weak. I have barely seen this item touched since its inception. Outside of Aegis bot Nando's, This item is never used and is a wasted slot in the item shop. In my eyes, items in the shop should be accessible to most of the cast. The new Guardian is accessible to what? 8, maybe 9 champions, in a roster of 52. Continuing with questionable item changes comes the recent changes regarding Haven and Veteran. I guess the Paladins team is dead set on Veteran being purchased, that they decided to nerf the hell out of Haven. So, first off, during the Haven Blast Shields merger, the overall DR of Haven was lowered from 7 to 6%. Then, in the Absolution patch, they lowered the DR even more, from 6% to 5.5%. This combined with the reduction in Veteran's cost, going from 250 credits to 200 credits, really paints the picture in your mind of how much they're trying to push the new Veteran. To conclude the item store, I hope next year has some reverts to it. I like the new Veteran. I just wish the devs didn't have to bring down Haven to prop up this new item. The Guardian / Blast Shields / record changes I hate and wish they were reverted. To go forward, I want to quickly share with you what I believe to be the biggest balanced lowlights of this year. How about we start with the overbuffing of Shaolin? Besides a light nerf to the Sand Trap talent at the start of the year, he has received nothing but buffs. Strong ones at that. Both Withdraw and Rapid Shot had their cooldowns cut by a second. The Rapid Shot now only has a barely noticeable 10% move speed penalty while firing higher damage shots. And the big one, the massive buff to the Desert Silence talent. On top of silencing you for 2 whole seconds, the talent slows you by 15% during that time. Just as a reminder, Desert Silence Shaolin with cards can have a higher silence duration than Torvald, who has to cast his Nullify while incurring a self-slow. Next up was the follow-up balancing surrounding Vatu. Balance-wise, he didn't get much. They nerfed Enveloping Shadows. Twice. Yes, it was, and still is, his strongest talent, because his other 2 talents are garbage, and not even up to par. Instead of chipping away at Vatu's only viable talent, why not take the effort to make Vatu's other 2 talents better? Apparently at one point, Vatu had an ability that would pull opponents towards him. That sounds way more useful than auto-aim sticky bombs. Another small one, but they nerfed Vatu's damage a smidge. Which, for close range, sure, I guess. But they didn't compensate this at all. Vatu's primary fire is incredibly handicapped at range, with its projectile gravity, and with the kunai being the only projectile outside of the frontline class to have damage fall off. I'm hoping we see some talent reworks and quality of life buffs to Vatu's kit going forward. We also had that brief stunt where Ceres could stun lock you. Early this year, they lowered the cooldown on Ceres' Ren Soul to 5 seconds, meaning that with cards, the cooldown could become 3 seconds, meaning that Ceres could essentially stun lock you with Agony if you didn't purchase Resilience. That was fun! Our last change here, and one that had me riled up the most, was the destruction of Sky's Smoke and Dagger talent. Previously, this talent would keep the smokescreen's main function of providing stealth to Sky, while also providing healing to her and her team. Well, on top of nerfing the base healing rate, they decided to completely remove the stealth from the smoke bomb. To repeat, they removed stealth from a stealth-based champion. This talent was already easily countered with AoE damage and a simple Illuminate purchase, but I guess that wasn't good enough for Evil Moji. Since this change, the talent has dropped off completely. I rarely see it played now. Before we move on, I want to talk about a set of changes that I'm neutral about. The ones regarding Io. So, at the start of the year, the ability for Luna to cap objectives and push carts was rightfully removed. To compensate, Io received some cooldown buffs towards Luna, as well as a revert to the lifelink talent. My issue is that without the talent, Luna feels worthless. Sure, you got the stun, but it's very inconsistent and hosts a long 18-second cooldown. Outside of that, Luna's only good for some chip damage. I was kind of hoping for some more quality of life buffs for Luna, to make up for the loss of capping, but we didn't get that. My personal idea is giving Luna a weaker version of the lifelink talent in her base kit, and just have the talent buff that aspect of her. Well, that was a lot of negativity. To cancel that out, I want to highlight a few of the changes that I liked from this year. The nerf to Grover's Deep Roots talent. It was infuriating to get hit with a root that wasn't even targeted at you. I still think the talent needs more adjustments, but this is a step in the right direction. The buff to Ying's Resonance. The talent is still Ying's overall worst, but I can't deny that the buffed Resonance is very fun to play with. Watching the clones sprint towards helpless opponents is so much fun. Raise a hand for the RYC! The buffs to Torvald. A lot of these were very light, but I'm glad that our grandpa got some balance love this year. I'm also going to personally take credit for the bubble HP being moved to 650, since I suggested that exact change in my How to Rework Torvald video. I am hoping they don't forget about that promised Torvald rework. The buff to Undying Terminus. A small threshold increase of 10% sounds like nothing, but this change made it so much easier to keep track of when your Undying buff is active. Thank you. Emotic cooldown buffs. Hey, she's my main. I'm biased as hell. Okay, wow, I thought there would be more here, but after skimming all the patch notes, I found nothing. This year's balance changes seem to range from meh to oh my god, what are you doing? No, Sky's already dead, please. Luckily, when you hit a low, things can only get better. So let's hope that 2022 has some good balance. My main balance wants are the same as they have always been. Buffs/reworks to the underplayed/underpowered talents, and soft reworks to the underplayed/underpowered champions. Our last section is going to cover bugs. As per usual, Paladins had another year of struggling with bugs. However, this was one of the worst years I've seen in regards to bugs. How about we start with the tarantula in the room, the server bug on PC, where you cannot play the game. I have very little details on this, as I have not played a lot of Paladins since Sati released, but apparently, there was, or might still be, a widespread bug amongst the PC community where you cannot play the game for upwards of 90 minutes. The fact that this bug came with a hotfix is unacceptable. The fact that this bug was not fixed within a week is doubly unacceptable. I guess people can't complain about the game if they can't play it. We also had numerous bugs surrounding the Trials of the Realm, where challengers would not gain progress despite meeting the criteria. Constantly, we would have to get hotfixes to automatically complete bug challenges that wouldn't fulfill. What about the bug surrounding the grab bag LTM? If you were lucky, you could play as everyone's favorite champion, Z-unused Cassie _V2, which is a version of Cassie with less health, no talent options, and the default announcer, the Woohoo Man. Or you could get even luckier and play as Invisictor, an invisible victor that crashes your game apparently. I know that a lot of the LTMs were shoved out for the sake of having content, but did anyone playtest these things? Speaking of bugs that should have been playtested, let's talk about bugs surrounding the new champions this year. Yagarath can pull enemies out of cover with her ultimate. Sometimes the enemy will take 1000 damage for reasons unknown. Octavia's defining ability, the Distortion Field, will oftentimes not work properly, as you can usually see enemy health bars through the field. This completely defeats the purpose of the ability, and I'm shocked this went to live. Just like I'm shocked with Ray's extension talent not functioning upon her release. Yes, Ray's default talent did not work upon her release. Another one with Ray, the targeting on her Spirit Link is completely jacked. You could be looking at a target right in front of you, and the link will tag someone else instead. For a champion whose whole playstyle revolves around this ability, you would expect it to work properly. Oh, I almost forgot about Vatu and his missing HP from his health card. Seriously? Then we got Sati with her pip bug, where sometimes the pips stop regenerating for no reason, causing you to have no abilities for the game. And last is Zan, whose dash will often not stun opponents, even if you meet the credential of slamming them into a wall. Some other noteworthy bugs this year include the ultimate voice lines for Berserker Torvald are swapped. Yeah, a real nice reward for those who had to suffer all that time in ranked. And then very recently, and a very personal one for me, the momentum on Amani's Inferno Cannon got completely trashed with the recent bug fix. The cannon was never this slow at base, and it was never this fast with Swiftseer 5. The old, properly functioning Inferno Cannon with Swiftseer worked like this. Inferno Cannon at base slows you down by 40%. In a patch showcase where they buffed Inferno Cannon's speed a few years ago, the devs mentioned that the Swiftseer card when capped out would give Amani a 20% move speed boost. So, with this logic, we could divulge that each level of the Swiftseer card would grant Amani 12% base move speed per level. Now, I have no idea what speed this card gives you. The level 1 and 2 version of this card feel like nothing, meanwhile you're zooming around with this card at level 5. Only in Paladins could we get more bugs from a bug fix. And then of course we have the countless outstanding bugs that should be fixed, like heavy walls or Terminus floating around, for example. If you want to see some of those bugs in action, I actually posted a video called the Paladins Bug Hunt, in which I found 50 bugs in the realm. So, 2021 as a whole for Paladins. What did I think? While we did get a lot of content with new champions and LTMs, I feel like the content we received did not have a lot of effort put into it. This was especially seen with the buggy LTMs and with a lot of champions lacking originality this year. This is why I've been preaching that Paladins need some quality content desperately. Spitting out new champs is not going to fix one of Paladins' core issues, which in my eyes is the lack of game modes. Like I said last year in my 16 things I want to see from Paladins in 2021, the biggest thing I want to see for 2022 is some new or returning game modes. My biggest hope for returning game modes are for Battlegrounds and Payload. Maybe for new game modes they could start small, like some modifications to TDM, maybe a free-for-all mode, or maybe 5 teams of 2 can duke it out TDM style, or possibly we could experiment with modes that have more than 10 players in them. I hope you all enjoyed this year in review. I love Paladins, and I hope the game does better for 2022. Don't forget to clap that like button and lace down that sub button. Snatching the bell is also a great way to keep in the loop. I'm YellowNinja, and peace.